D&D Beyond now fits in the palm of your hand with the free D&D Beyond app. It's the perfect toolset for beginners, regular players, and seasoned dungeon masters. Play faster with the guided character creator and access your character sheets, spells, and abilities wherever you go. All of your adventures and source books are at your fingertips, even when you're offline. Easily find and access the rules you need when you need them. With more features to come, download the free D&D Beyond app today.
Welcome back to D&D Beyond. My name is Amy Dallen, and I'm here with my amazing coworker, Michael Galvis. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Amy. I can't believe it's Thursday already.
we are still in this forever, like, anniversary week was yesterday. Anniversary week is tomorrow. Anniversary week shall never end. I think if anyone can fix our time portal situation that's happening for us, that would be great. But that was exactly why I wanted to pull you on the stream today, because I wanted to do a little stream today inspired by those games that we saw and played in and ran last week, which I'm slightly biased, but I thought they were all fabulous, and I had a great time watching the ones I wasn't in, and a great time playing in yours and playing with you in mine. But I was thinking about all of the great characters that we saw people bring. In some cases, for our meat grinder game, several characters. In some cases, for Who's Quest, very random characters. But we saw a bunch of great folks coming through the streams last week in those anniversary week one-shots. So I wanted to do a stream today about what to do if you know you're sitting down for a game, you know that game is coming up, but you are just going totally blank. You're stumped. You have no idea what to play. How to sort of brainstorm your way through and get some ideas, maybe based on what your DM has told you about what you're going to be doing, so that when they send an email like I sent to y'all where I was like, level 6, anything goes, how do you start? How do you approach those kinds of questions? So I picked out a couple of specific prompts for things that you might hear from your DM if you're sitting down for either a new campaign or for a one-shot, that we're going to kind of try to do 5-minute character inspiration versions of. But before we get into those examples, Michael, what do you ask yourself if you get like an email from me being like, here's the deal, level 6, anything goes, here's a little breadcrumb of info about the tone and what we're doing for the game? What are the questions that you ask?
Yeah, well, first off, I celebrate and I do a happy little dance because I'm always excited to be making new characters. It's one of my favorite parts of this game, is just theory crafting, like, oh, what if I did this with this, or if I did this with this? So one of the first questions I ask myself is, okay, well, what's the adventure going to look like? What's it going to feel like? Are we going to be traveling through a spooky forest, or is it going to be an urban crawl? And then I asked myself, all right, well, what kind of character do I envision would go on that type of quest or that type of adventure? And most importantly, like, what do I want to play? What do I think would be fun? Um, so, recently what I've been doing, I'm actually playing in a one shot this weekend. I've been telling myself, all right, I need to start playing these classes that I haven't tapped yet. So I'm actually going to be playing a barbarian for the first time this weekend. And
Rip
so,
proud of you.
that's yeah, I'm really excited, and also very like, okay, I hope I like this class. They look it looks pretty fantastic. So
Very fun.
I definitely take those things into mind.
I love that. Okay, so let's see. My notes of sort of hopping into those were sort of, if you know you have a game coming up and you know your table, if you're lucky enough to know the other players, obviously always an option to coordinate and make some plots and have some pre-existing bonds. So siblings, old rivals, colleagues, guildmates, long lost frenemies. There's a million variations. Parents and children you could roll into games with. That remember to consider doing pre-existing bonds if that's appropriate for your game and your campaign. And if you know something about the environment, like tone, you're always going to want to find something that fits. But if you know something about the specific environment, remember that you have options to either lean into it to make something perfectly tailored for it, or to lean away from it, which can also be very fun. To be like, who will not feel at home in this environment? Who might struggle not struggle to contribute to it, but on a personality or experience level, it might be fun to play someone who's like, wow, this does not fit my experiences. I got to get creative. And remember, as you prototype those characters, to never forget this is a teamwork game. So even if your character doesn't love everyone, you're going to want to find your why for why you're there. And it could be I'm in it for the money and this is a job. As long as you are in it, the key thing is to figure out why you're in it. Okay, so first up, 5 minutes on the clock. You have a one shot coming up, and you're making level 1 characters for a classic dungeon run. Looks like some exploration, some combat. Everyone is level 1. What do we do?
Okay. Well, first off, I would probably ask the DM, what's the general idea behind the dungeon? Do we know who owned the dungeon before? Is it, are we going to be exploring like artifacts, or is this like a newly created like dungeon that's like owned by kobolds? Because I think that could be kind of fun to just find a way to like, maybe if it is owned by kobolds, maybe I'm a different type of kobold, and I've like returned back to the dungeon.
I love that. See if you can hook your backstory into that environment. So let's say they're like, okay, can't tell you anything about the dungeon. I know that you're gonna pick up this job, but I can't give you the details.
Well, then the first thing I would do is start looking at um, what kinds of classes do I think perform well at first level. So we're going to be going into a dungeon, so there's probably going to be traps. So maybe I should consider making a rogue so that I can pick up thieves' tools proficiency right from the start. Or if I feel that maybe my buddy has already been wanting to play a rogue, I can go, all right, let's do a fighter then, and then I can kind of like be the tank. Oh
I will
gosh, there's
take
just
my feet from it, and you go. Okay,
yes, there's
so
there's so many there's so many opportunities here. So I think let's decide first what role do we want to play. Do we definitely want to
okay,
get spellcaster? Do we want to be this sort of stealthy type? Do we want to be tanky? Do we want to be range damage dealer?
I love your idea of let's not go through this dungeon without a rogue. Let's be a rogue.
All right, great.
I'm
Yes,
gonna
that's what I was hoping you would say because I love
and
my rogues.
and bearing in mind, there's no wrong answer. This is really just designed to sort of be like, if you're like, oh no, the blank page. Usually you have 600 character ideas and no game, but sometimes you have a game and you need a character. So this is a way to break that block by sort of coming at it sideways. So we're a rogue. We're going to be a level 1 rogue for this dungeon run. What would be a fun spin on that?
A fun spin on the classic rogue. I was kind of thinking. Uh, I think it'd be kind of cute if we were like a satyr rogue, like maybe your rogue who comes from the Feywild and um maybe you upset the summer court as a young satyr, and therefore like you have had to be very stealthy, you've had to be very careful with traps being set by sneaky little pixies that are trying to hunt you down and bring you back. And
Uh,
somehow you have just wound up on the material plane. You're like, okay, my skills are going to come into play here as an adventurer.
I love that. I love that so much. Okay, so a satyr on the run, who's going to find a way to apply the things they've been forced to learn over time to their dungeon crawl. What kind of background would you pick for that? Do you have one in mind for the 3
Mm.
seconds ago that I threw this at you?
uh, let me take a look at the backgrounds in DDB and kind of get back to you on that.
I have a
I
screen
need.
share up right now, and we have about 1 minute left. So let's see. Well, we can pick backgrounds right at this moment.
Ooh, an
And
archaeologist could be fun.
well, I will never turn down archaeologist. But is it a
It's
satyr archaeologist who went on the run? Did you
yes, because
delve into the wrong part of the Feywild?
yeah, maybe you uncovered some secret that the Summer Court has been keeping hidden from the other Fae during one of your archaeological digs, and now they want to, bring you to justice in order to keep that secret.
I love it. I love it so much. That would also I think it's Hermit also that comes with you made a major discovery that has impacted your life. So you could use either archaeologist or hermit, I think, to sort of feed into that element of like why you're on the run. I love it. That was our 5 minutes. We've got a satyr rogue, and we have all what we need to start filling out the rest of those details and getting ready for our one-shot dungeon crawl.
Let
Oh,
me just
I'm
say,
so
5
happy.
minutes is 5 minutes is not a lot of time. I think
I know.
if I was normally making a character, 5 minutes would get me to like maybe I have narrowed down my options of the classes that I want to play. Like maybe I'll play one of this half of the 13 or so classes that are out there.
I think 5 minutes for me is usually I will ultimately have considered 17 different classes and I'm on about number 4 at the 5 minute mark.
Yeah.
So it's the process. It's a process. Okay, we've got a one shot coming up. We don't have a lot of time. We are out of ideas. It's gonna be level 5, and this one is gonna be Palace Intrigue. Who do
Oh,
we want to
that's
roll up for some courtly shenanigans of Palace Intrigue at level 5?
oh gosh, there's a spell that was introduced in, I believe it was Acquisitions Incorporated, a Gift of Gab. And I have always wanted to play with this spell. It is a second level spell, and you get a reaction. You cast it as a reaction, and so when you say something, maybe you fumble your words, or you accidentally uh, are rude to someone. You can cast this spell, and it kind of reverses the memories that your listeners have, so that you get to try again. And I think so that spell is only for bards and wizards, so I would like to officially put in my vote for either a bard or a wizard.
Amazing. I love this. Just to put a hat on what's happening here. This is another great approach for a character. Honestly, just being like, I've never gotten to use that spell. That spell seems like it would be cool here. Let's work backwards. I'm gonna say let's go ahead and do a wizard. And I gotta ask, do we want to make someone who is naturally good at this stuff or who has picked up Gift of Gab because they are not so good at this stuff?
One of my favorite characters that I've ever played was a wizard who had no charisma, but he was royalty, and so he was constantly being put in front of noble people and lords and being asked to like make all of these deals that were affecting like the local people. And seeing him fumble through all of the charisma checks, because I didn't take this spell at the time. Seeing him fumble through those checks were some of the funniest moments of the campaign for me. So yes, they should have low charisma.
I mean, I love it, especially if you know, like, this is a great chance if you know the other people in your party and you know, like, that one's going to make a perfectly fast talking courtier who's trying to rise through the ranks, and we're going to make the awkward prince is constantly called upon for this, but doesn't have it as their strong suit. And a third person is going to be like a sassy servant who's gonna join in the adventure and knows all the like the dirt on everybody but doesn't have the same social access. Like those are sort of that's a great combination. But okay, I love it. Our wizard with Gift of Gab for level 5. What does I mean it could be anything, but do we have an idea in mind for what race we want to pair with our wizard?
Oh gosh, I think it would be kind of funny if we did maybe a Leonin from Mythic Odysseys of Theros,
Oh, I'm gonna
and
look that up. I've never played a Leonin.
they're really cool. Normally I would play them as sort of your like melee type characters.
I think it's
Um,
melee, but I've read it too many times.
yeah, but they're actually pretty handy for anyone really. You get your dark vision. You have your claws, which you wouldn't use here except in maybe a funny situation. You get your hunter's instinct, which is a proficiency in athletics, intimidation, which I think would be handy here, perception or survival. And then you get a bonus action roar that can frighten enemies around you, and it scales based off of your constitution modifier. So I'm visioning maybe this individual, the reason they have low charisma is because um, their mane never grew in. So they just kind of look kind of silly. Like, like when you're a teenager, well, I don't know if when you were a teenager, but when I was a teenager, I had very patchy sort of like hair growing in. So that's what I'm kind of picturing for this Leonin is just their mane is just it's just not working.
So our kind of gawky prince lion who's supposed to be growing into his intimidation but is just maybe not all the way there yet, and very relatable whether or not you had patchy hair coming in on your face in those all important years. I love this idea though, because that gives, especially if this one turns out to be a campaign, it gives you so much room to grow with this character. And okay, I think we have 1 minute left. Do we
Oh,
know what sort of wizard we're gonna make him?
um, oh gosh,
I know it's a big question. We
I
already have a lot to go on.
I like oh, maybe he leans more into the gift of gab sort of thing, and he gets into the chrono. I've never said this word out loud. Chronogy magic from Wildmount,
I've never played
or
with that.
it's so good. My husband played it in my last campaign, and the second level ability Chrono Shift, where you can like give someone um a reroll on like a saving throw or an attack roll, is so good. But we could
So
also go
Prince
evocation.
Do-Over of the Leonin clan, and Invocation as the predominant school.
Evocation is a
Evocation?
good backup
Yeah.
if, yeah, if your DM would not allow wild mount, because hey, if you're going to be bad at brokering deals, you should probably have your evocation spells ready to go when you upset the local lizard folk and they attack you.
I love it. I love our awkward princeling with the beard growing in, who's gonna, we will nail down the rest of those wizardly things. But that was our 5 minutes, and we are
Noble
ready
background, by
to
the way.
to perfect noble
Very easy
background, of course.
background, just noble.
Yeah. Um, and that will set us on our way for our level 5 palace intrigue one shot. And I'm like, I already missed these characters that I'm not gonna meet because we're not really making them. Okay, next up, it's level 10, and we're doing a forest adventure. We don't know where it'll take us, but we know we're going off into the wilderness. What do we want to bring?
Oh, level 10? Level 10 is so good. I love that. But you're just widening the options for me here.
I know,
That's
I know.
so hard.
And it's still
Do
5 minutes. But all we need is an idea. An idea is the start. The rabbit hole, as we nail down all the specifics, can follow. But
what would you say is your personal preference in that type of adventure?
I feel like this is the one where I probably have the biggest conflict between wanting to lean in and lean away from the things in question, because obviously D&D is so built to give you beautiful forest characters, a ranger or a druid who's going to have a specific relationship to the land, be able to draw on a lot of useful things. But it could be also very fun to make like the city slicker who's going to need everybody else's help, like, and who will be incredibly handy, let's say if you get into a fight, or a, but like with, doesn't have any idea which trees they're looking at. But it might be fun to lean in on this one. Like, it might be fun to be like, all right, let's make a druid, and maybe they know forests, but there's something else about this will be new to them. So somebody sort of who's, Keyleth style on their first journey out into the world, or very much like Melly played a character like this in our level 6 game last week, who was sort of just beginning her journey out into the world and helping people, and made some beautiful sort of naive calls, such as remaining a cow for a while, during our one shot last week. But I don't know. Do you want to lean totally the opposite direction?
I
What sounded
like
good
your
in that?
idea. I like your idea of the druid. The sort of maybe a druid who grew up more closer to Waterdeep. So they were maybe in the woods and they did their training there, but they always returned back to, the Emerald Enclave or another faction back in Waterdeep. And so they only really were taking summer vacations in the forest.
I love that.
I would
Do
like to pitch maybe a multi-class of,
Okay.
we could do, let's do something weird, like a druid with well, typically I would either multi-class them with like a barbarian if we were to do Circle of the Moon, because you can pick up some really nice resistances that make your forms last longer. Or I like the little quirky a one level dip in monk, so that your wild shapes forms actually they have higher AC because you have a higher wisdom modifier as a druid. So it
Now the monk
helps
thing might
your
fit the story that we're working on well, where like the combo with barbarian would be great for someone who's sort of like been in the woods forever doing this, like pro level. But the monk dip might suit this character who has stayed near major settlements, but like maybe you've been you a druid raised at like a monastery or other establishment right on the edge of a city. So like you've done your training, you have your leaders, you've been in the city a lot, but like you're taking that training now and fully going off into nature for the first time. I
Yeah,
think the possibilities there.
I like to even think that they picked up the monk classes, their levels during those like summer trips into the woods because
Oh,
they
I
were
love that.
meditating in the forest and that was assisting them as a druid, but then they were also learning from the woods like how to fight in a more sort of dexterous way.
Okay. You know what? Let's do that. I love that. What should we pair with our, is it going to be fully 9 druid, 1 monk?
I you know what? Let's have some fun. I would at least do 6 levels in druid so that your attacks can bypass resistances. Um but oh yeah, at least 6. Let's just keep it at a
Awesome.
1 dip though. I'm a very conservative player when it comes to my builds. I'm like just 1 level dip or 2 level dip. Um
We are
plus
running
I'm
out of
also
time, so
thinking
we
like
can,
oh no, gosh. Okay. Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
What plus we're also thinking
Circle
what?
of the Moon, you definitely want to hit level 10. So I would go 9 druid, 1 monk, and that way at level 11 you get your elemental forms as a druid. Um, race. I'm really overthinking this. Race, let's do something that's really out there that's typically not maybe thought of as a druid. So like a Kalishtar? Ooh, Kalishtar, yes. The from Eberron. These actually pair really well with Druid because they get telepathy, so then you can talk to your teammates while you are in wild shape anyway.
Love that. I so our Kaleshtar druid slash monk, who is going to go on this forest adventure at level 10, and if we live through this adventure, might hit 11, so we can get those elemental forms, and we can fill out the rest. But that I think was our 5 minutes. I forgot to watch the clock on that one, but I think we're about there. And that leaves
Faction background.
just what? Oh, what
Faction
background?
background, by the way. Yeah,
Oh, I
faction.
love it.
Uh, yeah, faction
Why?
agent would be really great. That's actually a really perfect background for if you're going to be in a major city like Waterdeep, because then you get to benefit from actually working with the really awesome factions that are there, like the Zentrum. I mean, they're the bad guys, but the Zentrum are really cool. Or the Xanathar, which is my favorite. It has a special place in my heart because I ran Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and I absolutely love uh, the silliness of the guild.
Amazing. All right. Final quick build challenge. Let's say that just like a bunch of our amazing players last week, you are headed to a warm place. Quite a warm one. You are level 20 and you're going to Avernus.
Oh, level 20?
Wait, 5 minutes to just get an idea of what you might want to bring to that particular party. And if you haven't watched it, folks, please watch. Tanya DePass ran a level 20 game called Infernal Goose Chase for us. And it would be cheating to use any of the characters people brought because those are theirs. But boy, they were all fantastic. Especially like the druid slash non-magic user interactions we had going on in Avernus. Anyway, watch the game. It was great fun. This is not about me geeking out, and I haven't started your clock yet. So 5 minutes, level 20, we're going to Avernus.
Whew. Um, oof. You know what? I really love the idea of playing a warlock if we're going to be that powerful and be going to uh the Nine Hells, right? That's where we're going.
Yeah.
Because my first thought is, why don't we make a warlock of the fiend? Wait, fiends are in the Nine Hells? Yes.
I think fiendish things are definitely going to part of the fiends. How did I
Yes,
pretend I
yes.
didn't
I don't
play it,
know.
y'all? Hmm?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would be really cool as a warlock to get to meet your patron right in their home.
I love that. I'm going to properly look this up. There are faster ways than just using the search bar for everyone. Don't obey my example. Um, all right. You have made a pact with a fiend from the lower planes of existence, a being whose aims are evil, even if you strive against those aims. So this would be leaning all in on the setting. You'd obviously want to talk to your DM about whether or not you can run into your patron. But I know as a DM, I would love to be like, oh, I can have that in my pocket. That sounds fun. Um,
Yeah,
and
this is definitely one of those characters where I would actually pick like, okay, the archdevil that I serve is this person, and they can typically be found here. Here you go, DM. If you want to work with this, I've made it as easy as possible for you to just drop them in.
use it as you will. Who should we make our warlock?
Hmm. I think a changeling would actually be pretty good here, because it can get a little sticky when you're in the nine hells. So you probably want like a tiefling, or I really like changelings. Let's go with changelings because it's always fun to just disguise yourself as different creatures, and it can add a lot of intrigue to what is already a great setting for political intrigue and backstabbing.
I love that. Let's pull that up for folks who might not have seen that one before. Hmm? I love that art. What were changelings brought in? Eberron, got it.
Yep,
We're
and then
dipping
they were
heavily on the Eberron, but
republished.
the Eberron characters are very fun.
Yeah, Eberron introduced some really great stuff, and then Tasha's like republished, the Artificer and brought in the armor, the new armor subclass, and they redid the changeling as well.
Thank you. Checking my memory. So we are a changeling warlock, pact of the fiend. And we're going in at level 20. Anything else that you would like? I mean, obviously, many other things. It's going to take a while to finish making this level 20 character. But anything you know off the bat you'd want to add into that soup?
The gambler background seems really appropriate for someone who made a pact with the fiend, for the
Yes!
devil.
Which, if you're me, would just lean into deciding which character from Guys and Dolls I'm going to be loosely basing my warlock Pact of the Fiend. Now I want an entire party that's characters from Guys and Dolls. Sarah's clearly a cleric. Adelaide is clearly a bard. Oh my god. Well, I'm down my own rabbit hole now. Sorry in advance for Guys and Dolls and Dungeons and Dragons when that one comes around. But we've done it. We made 4 characters in 25-ish, 20-ish minutes. And I would love to meet any of these in a one-shot or a campaign. Last thoughts on rapidly coming up with some characters, Michael?
That was both really fun and also really difficult because I kept wanting to just stop and be like, well, okay, but what kind of spell would we want if we're going to go with Warlock? And how would hurl through hell work if you're a fiend warlock? Whew. Yeah. It's nice to kick away the editor sometimes and just be like, what if a druid wasn't communing well with nature?
And that's where fantastic possibilities of play come from. So thank you so much. If you have your own ideas for how you approach things, if you are stumped for a character or what questions you ask us, I would love to hear those. If you're watching this later on YouTube, drop them in the comments, please, because I love y'all's input. And thanks so much.